Hello, welcome to the first part lecture on how to fly the Griffon. In this video, I will explain the techniques and when to use them. We will be looking at variations of the pulls and the dive, starting with the dives. However, this video will not cover the basics on how to fly the Griffon. This is just a catalog of techniques I came up with. As for my controls, I personally use an MMO mouse. My techniques require to use the A and D button. Therefore, C and V as the default controls will not work. I have over 4,000 hours flying the Griffon. I will not be arguing on that. I know better. The goal is to be able to use the A and D button. For right-handed people, Shift will be used to dive. Q will be used to pull. For lefties or any other, the goal is simply to be comfortable while using the A and D buttons or any steer keys. This is just to level the playing field. You don't learn to play Mozart by smashing your fist on a keyboard. You need to learn the proper hand techniques. The dives. Standard dive, dive 1. Dive 1 is simply done by pressing dive. It is the most simplest way to dive. Dive 2. You need the aerial finesse skill to do that. First dive, then flap, then release. This will create a speed boost. This is the foundation of how the Griffon is flown. Turn dive. To perform a turn dive, use the A and D keys. Imagine a clock around your Griffon, 12 being forward. When turning to the left, using the A key, when you hit 8 o'clock, release the A key and switch to the D key. Vice versa, turning right. Using the turn dives. Again, imagining a clock around your Griffon, assuming a left turn. Turn at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. Then initiate the dive. When you do a spiral dive, you go a little bit backward and you will not dive where you were aiming. So going to 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, or 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock will adjust the dive trajectory. Keying. Keying is done by doing an half turn in one direction or the other. Done when the Griffon is too far ahead to do a straight dive. This will correct your position further back. Macro adjustment dives. The dash dive or the micro dive. This technique is the fastest one to micro adjust your height. Micro dives are done to rapidly adjust your height by quickly pressing the dive button, although it can be jerky at times and cause crash. A good amount of practice fixes this problem. However, crisping or overpressing it might cause you to crash. The balance dive. Balance dive is done by pressing dive, then pressing it again before the animation finishes. The balance dive is used when the dash dive cannot maintain a descent steep enough. It is more controllable than just micro dive by themselves, although they require a lot of practice to maintain this balance between too much and too little. Flap dive. Flap dives are done by flapping and mid-animation of the flap diving. You can use it if you want to have a little bit more elevation before diving or if you want a smoother dive. Also, if you want an even more smooth dive, you can link it up with a drift dive. Drift dive. Drift dives are done by turning while diving. If you have done some spiral dive, you've probably seen that if you release the dive button and continue to turn, your Griffon will continue to go down. As you can see, while I dive and turn, after I release, the Griffon still goes down if I continue to turn. This means that as long as you input a turn after inputting a dive, you will go down in a drift. This also means that if we press A and D, you will input turns. You will go down in a straight line and you can control that descent easier than a micro dive, a balance dive, or up dive. As you can see, overpressing or underpressing is not an issue here, and you can maintain a constant descent easily. However, this dive has a limit, and after some time, the dive will stop working. You can link it up by just pressing a dash dive, then pressing A and D. Now, beginning the section of pulls. For the full pull section, please observe how fast the stamina bar refills and how many flaps are performed while pulling up. Full normal pull, done by simply pressing pull. Full dive pull. Dive pulls are done by pressing dive and pull at the same time. This takes advantage of a mechanic that when you dive, you have a stamina boost. But when diving, pressing pull will take over the dive animation. Although it will not cancel the stamina boost it creates while diving. That means you have a stamina boost when pulling up. Full pull Catavar. The Catavar is done by diving in dive 2, then releasing, then diving in dive 1, then pulling up immediately. I do not know why, but when diving in dive 2, releasing, then diving in dive 1, then pulling up, you have 3 flaps when pulling up instead of 2, like the pull dive has. All I know is that when I use that and I pull up, it goes way faster to regain my height, and I go way further up. Full pull Catapult. The Catapult is done like the Catavar, meaning after doing a dive 2, then a dive 1, we press everything at the same time, meaning we do a dive pull and we flap everything at the same time. This creates an animation glitch that propels you upward. We could say that the Catavar is a failed catapult, and it is. Yet it does remain that is more effective than the dive pull. Normal pull. Simply done by tapping pull, although it is one of the least efficient way to adjust by pulling. The Halfy pull or the 50-50 pull is done by first flapping, then doing a normal pull, or pulling then flapping, vice versa. It uses less energy than just using pull. The Heep Pull is done when something in front of your Griffon is at beak height, and you flap to clear over it. The dip though can really save you if you're close to the ground. Just tap pull really quickly. The tricky part is to not overpress pull. The POW Pull is done by using the dive pull method and flapping immediately as you pull. It is very useful when you quickly need to get up and evade something. It is also the best way to initiate a pull, as you will have more time to flap during your pull timing. And as for what I perceived, when I'm low on energy, doing a little POW Pull when pulling up gives me that little oomph I need to get a little bit further high up. A smooth pull is done by flapping and mid-animation pressing pull. This will put you in a different pull animation where the wings are flat. By pressing pull in a rhythmic pattern, you can control the ascent very precisely. It is the most precise way to pull up and the most efficient also, as you do not lose as much energy as the other pulls. A smooth tap is done in the exact same manner, except this time we are either tapping it or holding it longer rather than keeping a rhythm by pushing the pull button. Turning. There's a lot of ways to turn. You can steer with your mouse, use the A and D buttons, but to tighten your dive, you can use pulls and dives. The frostwalk dash is done by using the keys while diving, then immediately pulling up using the opposite key. It is hard to pull off and very niche. It can be used to move sideways. And this sums up the video on techniques and tricks I know about the Griffons. Be on the lookout for the part 2 of my video on how to fly the Griffon. Thank you for watching. A written guide is in my Discord, link in the description.